Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? You can now hear me. Okay, I'm going to start this all over again because we'll end up having to cut out that beginning. I'm glad you do and I don't. Okay, my name is Leslie Ohnstad. I'm the creator of Color Art Products, and I'm your host of ColorPlay Live 3 days a week, Tuesdays and Fridays at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, and on Saturdays at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. For those of you who have missed the last 2 days event, I noticed that Marjorie's here. Other than the chat still not working for me. Give me a second. It's not going to do any good if I can't see people's requests. This always happens. Let me get back in and out. Because I see the chat, but then as soon as the broadcast starts, yeah, okay, I see everybody's in here. Sandy's here, Medina's here, Jonah's here, Donna's here, Sally Dalton is here. Everybody's coming in. This is perfect. Okay, so now I can see everybody. So those of you I had an emailed address for, I sent a list of what we had of record that you'd put in your shopping bag. And there's a few email addresses I didn't have. The one for Kim, the one for Shannon Allen, Michael G. Gobolowski. I'm pronouncing his last name wrong. So if any of you guys come in, if you ordered, like Sally, I see Sally is here and Joan is here. Just to be safe, do me a favor and put your email address if you don't mind. Now, Joan, I know I emailed you. Sally, I know I emailed you. And Michelle, I know I emailed you. Great, it's buffering. Fantastic. I see a little buffering here. Anyway, I guess we'll try to keep an eye on Shannon and Kim and the rest. But if anybody wants to put more stuff in their cart, we're going to ask you to put your email address in there just one time so we can go back to the replay and we have a way to get a hold of you. So Twinkling H2Os, we began making those 2004, basically 20 years ago. They are made out of the primary elements. We had actually originally shown the primary elements 21 years ago, and the public wasn't ready to get their hands dirty. So we ended up putting them in these beautiful watercolor cakes. Now, we sold them in a 10-gram cake. We didn't sell them in the big 30 mil. And we also had them in a 5-gram, which is the standard size for a full pan watercolor is 5 grams. And so our everyday 10-gram always gave the customer twice as much. Priscilla Hauser, the founder of Society of Decorative Painters, though, in 2005, it was about a year after we launched these, she asked us to do a special run in these big giant cakes for the show in 2005. And here it is 18 years later. And on March 9th, I did a live here and showed them off, and people kept begging for when was I going to make them again. And we do want to make the watercolors again. The Color Club idea was to start raising capital to retrofit the warehouse and, you know, obviously accommodate for the increased rent that they gave us. But we really need to build this hot box, but we can do a couple natural runs that just dry naturally. But once we want to really gear up and have more than 24 colors offered, we're going to have to do this hot box thing. So, but we didn't quite hit our goal on that, you know, and that's okay. We still have a long ways to go. So it's probably going to be summer by the time we'll actually be able to offer poured Twinkling H2Os in a smaller jar. So the idea was, well, what are all these ones doing? They're not doing me a good sitting in the garage. There's like 681 jars sitting in my garage. So I went out and counted them. We got a list. All the ones that we only have one of are gone, but there's quite a few of them left. A lot of you guys were here from the last 2 days, so you may not want to see a full repeat, but I'm going to try to keep my eye on the chat, because if there's a color, and I don't know, Sherry or Kathleen or Catherine, if you guys can post a link to the list so people can see the names. I'm happy to run through them, but since we've already done that, I think what I'm going to do is just do a little touch up on this piece. Sandy Sanders messaged me yesterday. She's decided she wants to purchase this birch tree piece that I've been working on. And of course, I have made comments. I gave Kathleen a wrench a couple days ago, Sherry, and I can't do anything about it right now. I can't change it, not during the broadcast. I can't anyway. But you may be able to right click on her name. There's 3 little dots next to her name. You may be able to do that. Okay. All right. So this piece was started 18 years ago when I went to the Society of Decorative Painters show in 2006. The background colors were laid in first. So the design is drawn from a pattern that you get from the artist at the show. The background colors were laid in 18 years ago. I got back, and this was a special canvas that Fredra said had sent a bunch of artists to test the viability of a watercolor canvas that you could remove color if you wanted to, right? However, the trick is once it is finished, you're going to either put it behind glass or put some kind of fixative on it because you don't want it to run in case somebody, heaven forbid, splashes a cup of coffee on it. I don't know who would be slopping color or anything liquid up against their walls, but no one knows. Anyway, so now that I know that somebody actually is interested in purchasing this, yesterday I did a little touch up here. I put a little bit of the kiwi over the top, and I put a little bit of the ginger peach on here to see what it would look like with dry. I don't really want to use this as a test canvas and mess it up on the live. I mean, I like this fade in effect here. I don't feel the need to have the whole thing covered with color. I love how the sides fade in. But as I mentioned yesterday, there's still some hard sections here. Is what is the transition here? Transition. And then when I went over the trunk with, I think it was a little bit of the Venomous Viper, and now this is the Purely Pigment colors, and a little bit of the Golden Nickel. It gave me this interesting kind of greeny gold wash. Well, now look at the center birch tree. It looks almost white, and the one on the left kind of looks brown. So I'm going to have to decide what color are the birch trees before this is done. But again, now that this is being purchased, I am not going to dink around with this on camera and then get nervous and mess this up for Sandy because she wants to buy it. But I did want to show you, you know, a little bit of what it did. But I could go in and say, add a highlight here, add a highlight here. Now's the time to go in and add detail with like a Copic pen or a tiny paintbrush or a highlight. I'm loving what that sea coral did. I love that color. All right, so I think what I'm going to do, we can do a real quick recap. Marjorie Barnes is the only new name I see in here. And then Donna, did you actually see the episode yesterday? Did you see the colors that we had out there? I know Joan was here yesterday. Well, thank you, Sandy. I just like, when it's going to become something that someone purchases, I'm going to take it a little bit more seriously than put it on camera and pretend it's, you know, it's a test canvas, because it's not a test canvas anymore. Okay, good. Then you saw that. All right. Well, so many people have said, well, I don't watercolor. Okay. The names of the watercolors, Catherine McGee, like sweet, so we know what colors we're going through and we're using here. Part of the names that just told her, dude, that looks like their moderators are doing a little bit of business here, making sure they have everything organized if somebody says they want something. So now a friend of mine, and you could do this. This is a really, hello, Miss L. Welcome from Montana. So glad you can join us. I didn't see the last couple of days, and I sent you a message this morning to let you know this broadcast was happening. We're playing with all these big, giant, honking watercolors. And they are available for sale if you're interested. I'm just going to run through real quickly, even though I don't know if I have all the swatches here to show everybody. It's a little bit confusing. See, where yesterday it was easy. I just kind of went down alphabetically and showed them all. Today it's like, where do I pop in and show some colors or not? But guys, if you guys can post a list, I don't know if we can post a list of what's left. Several are gone. Am I blurry? Hopefully I'm not blurry. I should be right here for you guys. Okay, I'm going to see if I can find my swatches in order, because I know Miss L may not have seen yesterday's broadcast, and I just want to make sure everybody's kind of on the same page. I have all the swatches from the last 2 days, but it's kind of confusing. And so there was this color called Baby's Breath. It's mixed in a well, that's too bad, Sherry. You can't post a link and you got a wrench. It's in an oyster base, very soft, kind of a peachy skin tone. There's the Bronze Medallia. There's the Buttercup, which technically is a pale yellow, but it's very, very, very frosty. Dreams Bloom is gone. Coralberry. How many do we have left of Coralberry? Yesterday I showed 6, but a couple could have. Oh, wait a minute. No, we know that Walt took 3, Annette took 2. So there may only be 1 Coralberry left. If anybody's interested, someone may have to confirm. Sherry, can you confirm that there's only 1 Coralberry left for me? The Chestnut Brown looks like we probably have 39. We have 0 Coralberry, so the Coralberry is gone. My apologies. Chestnut Brown, I think we still have, I'm trying to see the number there. What about 39 of them, you think? And that's such a pretty color. That just Chestnut Brown is gorgeous. Not everybody's into browns, but the, is this the Chestnut Brown over here? Yeah, this is that chestnut here. It's funny, I can tell at a distance what the color looks like. Yeah. There's that beautiful, wormy, yummy, yummy color, that chestnut brown. So it dried really dark, even though this is the full color out of the pot like this. But this will give you a better idea what it looks like when sending it down with a little bit of water. Now, a lot of people have said, well, I'm not a watercolor artist. Yeah, you have the smaller size. Okay, so Miss L, you're familiar with the Twinks. I don't have to go through them all. I thought you were a watercolor person when you reach back out. Okay, good. So far, so good. We don't have to repeat them all. A lot of people have said I don't watercolor, and I'm going to do something simple here. I can find, I have a little notebook. I may be able to just put it up on top of another canvas here. Something that I can lay that watercolor paper on so it kind of tilts it up for you, right? So you can see what I'm doing. So a friend of mine made a bunch of these for me years ago. His name is Fred Mullet. And he just took pencil, drew a little calla lily, created some kind of way where he got the frame on all of them. And then this is printed on really cheap student grade watercolor paper, right? And so they're great to practice on. And so I'm just going to put a paper towel up underneath this. I really don't want to stain this practice canvas underneath it, but you know, it's here in case we need it. So probably one of the quickest things I learned when we took the watercolor class in Society of Decorative Painters. And by the way, ever since I ran across this, I've been fantasizing about doing a really big, like 36-48 canvas with one giant calla lily kind of up one side, almost a Georgia O'Keeffe kind of style. I don't know. I've been hankering to do a big calla lily. So don't be surprised in a couple of weeks you don't see me do this. Yeah, I know, Kathleen, she's right. Kathleen's right. They are a really amazing deal. Uh, it would take you about 2.5 jars of primer elements to be able to make one of these in a pot. So uh, anyway, I'm just going to wet this background with a little bit of water, right? You normally, I know it seems counterintuitive. When I used to paint as a kid, I always painted the major thing and then tried to figure out what I was going to put in the background, right? But in this case, what do I want for the background? I'm going to go with something really soft. The chiffon has too much white mica in it, but that Dreams Bloom, even that baby's breath. I don't know if I'm going to have a calla lily. If I want my calla lily purple, green, then my background could kind of be a yellow, a little bit of a yellow and a pink. But I don't want it so strong that it counts it out. I don't want to like have it take over. So I know you can't see all the way up. If you're blurry, Joan, what do you need, honey? All the way up. The pots are all the way up, all the way up, all the way up. Yes, Joan, still blurry. Okay. Yeah, check and see if she's right, if your brightness is turned up. Okay, because I want to do a wash, I'm actually going to use some palette paper. You can also use, I'm looking for my palette paper here. You can also use cut right wax paper if you need to. In this case, because I can't find my palette paper, I have a plastic plate. I always have these around my table. So if I want to take a little bit of my ginger peach, love that color, and of course I can add a little water. Normally you take the water and use it with your paintbrush, but in this case we actually happen to have, hey Dee, how you doing, honey? We actually happen to have a spray bottle that makes it a little bit faster that's turned this into a wash, right? God, that ginger peach. Now it's a really dark yellow. So I'm just going to see how wet this is. Looks like my paper's drying up already. It's drying too fast for me. Normally you would have a mop brush, meaning a larger brush that you do your background with. And then this, by the way, these paintbrushes are the best for painting detail on watercolor. The hairs are trimmed so beautifully on these. They come to that perfect point. It's by a company called Black Velvet, and this is the Silver series. I'm trying to pull it out so you can actually see the. Now this is blurry. I can't see the label on it, the name on it. It's not picking it up. It's a little bit too close. I don't have a mop brush. Somehow I lost it in packing. I'm sure it's going to be somewhere when I move again. So I'm just going to take a tiny bit of this ginger peach, give myself kind of a muddled background. I got a tiny bit of the sunburst yellow over here. See if I can add a little warmth. And then, I don't know, I got a little bit of pink anthurium. Pink anthurium. I want a coral, just a little bit of coral. just to kind of give a little variation in here. It doesn't have to be all one color, right? Then I'm going to take some paper. Toilet paper is normally what they'll use to do this. And you kind of muddle your background by blotting any excess off, and you're creating an irregular pattern in your background, so it's real super subtle. You can always go in with a clean paintbrush and say, okay, I feel like this needs to be closer. All right, so you can soften. That's called a hard edge when it kind of dries with that hard edge, right? I don't mind that little pop of bright shimmery gold over here. I lost a little bit of the depth of my ginger peach. So I'm just going to warm it up on one side slightly. Just give it a little bit of a variation so it doesn't look like just a straight old plain background. Now, the trick to the watercolors, what they do, and this is really cheap paper, so it should dry fast. Let me get my, you know what, Harley hid my gun. Last time I used it, I blew it at him to get it off my table, and I think he's mad at me. He moved my gun around. It's just a blow dryer. Ooh, look how sparkly that is. Look how sparkly that is. Okay. Now, this could be trimmed out. I'm not going to worry about that I went outside of the lines. This is just something loose. And remember, this is practice. And this is a good thing to do to loosen yourself up. Get your twinks, get them home, do little color swatches like I did. And then, you know, kind of decide what is it that you want to, you know, paint with them. And if you're going to do watercolors, you can practice with them. There's lots of techniques out there. Let me see what other colors I'm going to use. I want a little bit of the, you guys said kiwi's gone? Did you say the kiwi is gone? Is the key lime gone? Not that kiwi isn't one of the most beautiful colors in the world. That's probably why it's gone. There's the key lime. And I'm actually going to like probably throw everybody for a little loop. I'm going to use a little bit of Guatemalan green and key lime in my stem. Yes and yes. So there's more key lime left, or the key lime is gone? Both are gone. Okay. Well, is there lucky apple? Is there still lucky apple in the house? See, I'm not going to promise something I can't keep. Is a lucky apple still in the house? There wasn't that many to begin with. Lucky apple is also gone. Well, I'm going to use one of those as a highlight color. Okay. But when you're playing with stems, right? Here's a little olivine. Here's a little bit of the key lime. I think I'm going to grab, since I get to choose. Oh, no wonder my kiwi's not going to work. I didn't wet it up. What color is this? Because I want some contrast between these two greens, right? That's a lucky apple. I thought I squirted these all this morning. I probably missed one of these cakes. I guess I'm going to have to go back to the key lime I planned on using, right? Now I've wiped out my plate so I can get some color on my plate. I'm going to get a little bit of the key lime in here and mix it in there with that lucky apple, right? And then let me get some olivine here. Do we have any olivines left? Do we have any olivines left? Just checking with the girls. Do we have any olivines left? We'll see. Oh, we have 3 lucky apples. Ooh, that's good. Yeah, then this is that lucky apple. It's such a pretty color. Okay, so if I went in, this is a small little stem. It's not a very big area. So typically what I'll do is start with the darkest color first. When my water reservoir is kind of far away. And I'm going to take some of this key lime and pull it right up this edge here. Again, don't get all frustrated over the lines. This is only practice, right? This is practice. And it's healthy to practice. It's good for your brain to loosen up, to kind of get things going. We've already proven that your endorphins and serotonin and everything's on full overload when you're playing with color, especially colors that sparkle, right? So here I'm just coming up the side with the key lime. Normally I would have wet the stem and let it puddle up and do all of this, but this is a very small area. So I'm just taking a little bit of creative license and making sure I got a little olive, right? And a little bit of that lucky apple in there. Now, I want my calla lily purple. I'll be bringing in the Guatemalan green, I promise. It'll be part of my shading. I want a purple calla lily because my background is yellow. And what is the contrasting color to yellow? Anybody that's gone to our past events, speak up if anybody knows. If you don't, we'll figure it out. The contrasting color to yellow is, I think everybody's more worried about reading the feed, or either you guys are watching me. It is purple. Yellow and purple are contrasting opposite on the color wheel. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take a little bit of jasmine. And I'm going to mix it with a little bit of the royal orchid. So it's a really warm purple. See, I've just made my own value of violet. Yes, you can mix these things. So this is the royal orchid mixed with the mixed with the jasmine. That's right. Okay, now I want a clean brush to apply it. I don't want a bunch of gloppy paint on there. And part of it, I want to try to stay white. So how am I going to do that? Well, I'm going to try to find some clean water is what I'm going to do. Because to keep it white, I don't want. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to apply some water right here along this edge. Right? I'm applying a little clean water up here along this edge. We're going to try to frame it in the purple on one side. Whether this works or not, we'll see. And then I'm going to take this color and run it. And now, of course, I paint this direction, so I have a tendency to turn my image so my hand can always go the right direction for me. I'm going to paint in that violet right there. Just enough to get some violet in there, that red violet. And then I'm going to take some of this, this brush, it's called Rinse, Blot, Fan, or Fade. I've rinsed it with clean water. You blot it usually with toilet paper or something really, really absorbent. You fan it out, right? And then you spread the color with a clean fanned brush. Now, this is watercolor, really cheap watercolor paper, so it may not stay wet long enough for it to work. But that's how the process goes. You get it wet, you put in your dark area, rinse, blot, fade. You can pull out the color, and that way you get a light, medium, and dark. Now, if I want to add a little bit more of the Twinkling H2O up here, get a little bit darker in my mix, I can. This other part of the petal, get that purple out of that yellow there. That other part of the petal, all I got to say is this is really super relaxing to do this. I was doing, this was what I would want to do. I was always painting with watercolors when the fluid art movement came out. But of course, I had the luxury of going to that Society of Decor Painters class in 2006. And when I learned all of their tips of painting a section and drying a section and laying a section and laying more color in it, once I learned their tips, oh, it was tons more fun. First time I tried to watercolor and I got the whole thing wet and all the watercolor turned into a big blob on the paper, I went, okay, I'm never doing this again. And then I took this class and I went, all right, I'm sold. Now, this is a little tricky. Typically, you don't put wet next to wet because I do not want this to run into there. That was a kind of a dangerous move. I'm going to try to keep my color mostly here at the top and out of the way. And just fade it so the center of this thing goes all the way to the most delicate stained violet. It would be pretty to put the wisteria right there. I just saw a pop of color that reminded me of wisteria. That's a violet that we sell that's in an interference green base. How much wisteria do we have left? Did we sell out of those last night? I think we only had 2 left of the wisteria. I think there was only 2 left of the wisteria. Okay, so I know that it's unusual, but they do have those hybrid calla lilies that come in colors, right? So my stamen, I want my stamen really bright. I want it to pop. I realize I have a yellow background here, so I'm going to take a little creative license. Let's see, I'm looking for my spice pumpkin. No, that's the puppy red. This must be spice pumpkin. It's a pretty dark orange, but I'm going to take some of this spice pumpkin, just a little dab of it, and a drop of ginger peach, and try to make a darker red orange or darker yellow. Get these colors out of the way or I'm going to get into trouble and I'll make a mess here. So because it's such a tight little piece, now there's water there. That's right. Rule of thumb is let that dry. Remember the steps, Leslie. I just don't want that color to bleed, right? So it's a very tight, small little space. Again, normally you'd be saying, oh, let's, put the water down and let it run. But in this particular case, I'm going to edge that. This is that spice pumpkin mixed with the ginger peach, right? So we're going to kind of frame our yellow stamen. So when I put a little yellow in there, it's not going to look like it's too much like that background. Again, I'm creating more contrast, but kind of framing that yellow just a little. I'm trying to remember. I think they're a bright yellow stamen. I don't think there's any orange to them. The cats are waking up in the background. I can hear them. So I've got some sunburst yellow here. Now I am going to want these two to bleed into one another, but first I want to kind of get a little bit of that color down, make sure I hit that base next to the purple. Then I'm going to clean my brush, take a little bit of clean water, and kind of move these two colors together so it looks like one. I mean, this is my little statement, right? This is the way I'm doing it. Let's get that dry. Sharon McCabe. So Sharon, I think, wants to know what's available. So do we have a list we can send, or the wrench is having trouble sending lists out? Because as soon as I finish this, I can run through these pretty quick, Sharon, because you probably didn't see them, or maybe you did see them. Yeah, we actually sold 5 sets of everything this morning, but there's still quite a few colors. There was lots of, I mean, Sharon, I know you can't write this down this fast, but oh, they say Catherine can send it. I know that there's plenty of the bronze medallion, the baby's breath, the burnt umber, the buttercup. There's a few sorbet left. I think take 5 of that. Is that 8 cherry sorbet? Someone let me know how many cherry sorbet there are. Dreams Bloom is gone. Coralberry is gone, correct? I know I'm asking questions and I'm not even giving them a chance to answer me. I believe they said the coralberry was gone. We know the Dreams Bloom is gone. The fairy plum is in the 20s. The forest green. Now we sold 5 of those this morning. So if I had to guess, there's probably 13 of the forest green. Yes, 8 cherry sorbet. They have confirmed. Am I right that there's possibly 13 coralberry? I mean, not coralberry, forest green. Is there 13 forest green? 9 forest green. Okay, then there's the fuzzy peach is gone, garnet's gone. How many ginger peach do we have left, guys? How many ginger peach? And Sharon, if you want to start a box, just tell them to start a bag for you. Make sure we have your email address, even though I know you bought from me before, so I can find your email address. So we have 7 ginger peach. Is that what that 7 is for? Because I think that's the last color I asked about. 6 ginger peach. Okay. There is probably 12 golden bamboo, and not sure the final number on the good news green. The girls are going to have to tell us the good news green. That's one of those breast cancer colors. The Guatemalan green, that is the one I'm going to pick up and use here right now. We probably sold quite a few yesterday. That's the one. How many's left of the Guatemalan green? 1. We had 13 yesterday. Guatemalan green is gone, Kathleen. No, there's 5 guats. So the one before that was probably gone. Was probably ginger peach that was gone, but there's 5 Guatemalan greens. Okay. Hunter gray. I just want to give Sharon an idea since she asked. Hunter gray probably would, because I'm going to take 5 off of every one of these numbers. So the hunter gray is probably a 6 if I had to guess. Icicles is gone. Iridescent gold, which is basically interference gold in a pot. A lot of calligraphers are using the bronze and the solo gold and the interference gold to add markings and detail work. Okay. But the Hunter gray is probably iridescent gold. There's probably 5 off of that 21. So there's how many iridescent gold? 11 gold. Okay. Jasmine. We know we lost 5 plus whatever we sold yesterday. What do we have left in jasmine? That's kind of a hot color. That's that color I just used. And if you guys could go right down the line, okay, and go from jasmine on and just type the name of the color and how many from jasmine down. And that way I'm going to keep painting. There you go. Someone just put jasmine 10. That way Sharon can kind of get caught up with the rest of us. I mean, not everybody's going to be here on all in the same day. It's just not possible. So I've got a little gap over here. So I promised I was going to put a little Guatemalan green in this thing. A pop of green always makes that red violet prettier, right? So let's grab a little bit of the Guatemalan green. Find a place where I can put it on my little plate. Let's get a little bit. I need a tiny bit more water. It feels a little sticky. It should flow off your brush really nice. It should feel really nice on your brush. Not necessarily all sticky washy, but that's in your brush. Now, on this little guy, there's a little pattern here. Leslie, do this right. I want to make sure you can see me do this. So there's like a little area here that can go a little bit darker. Around here, there's always that little crown, or whatever that little part of the plant is. Now, going over this green, it's going to look more green than Guat. But I have used Guatemalan green as a highlight so many times with the olivine and the key lime. And I just like what it does. I like that little pop of turquoise. Okay, I've got that in there. Now I'm going to try to fade it in. So it just adds a touch of contrast. Same thing with, it can be used as a shadow. Blues and purples are used as shadows, right? So if I wanted to, and I know this is a risky move, you may say, oh, she ruined it, right? If the sun was coming from here, of course, I've already put it on this side. I made my shadow side this side, darn it. So in theory, the shadow would continue here. I was going to put it here, but the shadow would continue on this side. So I'm just going to take my little bit of blue, rub it out, create a little shadow to it. So, you know, there's my little calla lily. Boop, 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 boop. So what if I had, God, I got a couple pieces here. What if I had an acrylic piece I wanted to touch up? So I have a few behind me. I'm going to show you something really. Okay, now be prepared to look at something you're not going to expect. I found this morning and I thought, well, I'll put myself out there. We'll see what they say. Years ago, let's see, what year was this? This was circa 2000, yeah. That didn't turn out too bad. Got a little pop. Okay, so I went to the HIA show, Hobby International Association show in Los Angeles in 2001. So 23 years ago, I painted this. Okay. Now I can imagine what everybody's saying. Oh my God, what was that? So at the time, there was this artist, I forget her name actually, and she was famous for this rubber stamp that she had where the center started in one corner of the stamp. I'm trying to get it so you can see the whole thing. I may have to lift it up. And so the center was here and the sunflower went out to the right. Okay. Now, the chunks in the center, when I was first experimenting with primary elements, I was mixing it in Futura floor polish and putting them in containers. And the Futura floor polish dried, created these hard textural pieces. And I use this for the center of the sunflower. This is actually primary elements that's formed in these shapes mixed in Futura floor polish. Now it has to dry for weeks, and then I apply it on the canvas and sealed it. Now the sunflower itself, I mean, there's one little tear, so it probably should be taped in the back before I finish this up. But as I looked at this thing, I said, boy, what was I thinking? What is that bright gold in the background? I wish I painted this black, to be honest now. It would make this pop more. I do like these colors here, but oh, you got it. Yeah, you got to let them pool up. You know what, Kathleen? We can sit and talk about that. I mean, once I move and I can set up the extra stations, we're going to have a wet station. We'll be able to watch this over a few day period and see how these things form and how they get made. And it's fun. But let's say I had this piece and I wanted to touch up the colors. Okay, so obviously this could be a turquoise, this could be a purple. I could use some ginger peach here. This background where it's yellow, really, in my humble opinion, should be black. And I know it's kind of insane for me to pick up a black paintbrush right at this moment. But as soon as I saw that thing, ooh, and luck would have it, the universe gave me first bottle was carbon black that I pulled out. So this must be meant to be. Now I've got to find a brush that's going to be the perfect size. I don't want something too big and I don't want something too little. And I'm not going to use my watercolor brush to paint the vivid intense. Now this I do save for only the watercolor base. I want to make sure my brush is not affected and I don't want to ruin the bristles. These things sell for about 20 bucks. They're not cheap, but they paint beautifully. So I'm not going to put acrylic in that ferrule, right? But I know if I can go with the Vivid Intense, which is super creamy. Yeah, there was a video. She watched them. Mrs. Zell watched the video where I made those chips. There is an old video in my feed showing how I made them. Yes, indeedy, you are correct. It doesn't mean we shouldn't revisit it, but for the sake of all of this, I'm just going to pour a little bit of black on here. Squeeze a little color out. The Vivid Intense is in a creamy, it's like almost feels like a varnish mixed with glazing medium. It kind of has that softer feel, doesn't dry too hard. And of course, this is pure carbon black. Of course, we're going to have to see if this works. Now, this painting is what, 21 years old? Let's see if you can see this yellow area. You can't see the yellow area. All I know is if I went over black, this is definitely going to make the actual colors pop. So, well, I don't want to waste my entire broadcast painting black. I think popping a little bit of black on the tips of these and then fixing a couple of these leaves may give you ideas on what you can do. I mean, I've got a room full of paintings that I've done that just need an extra touch up, right? Matter of fact, I have one sitting behind me. I'm dying to show you, but it's so big. I don't think if I put it on the camera, I mean, this is huge, that you would see it. It was my very first ring pour. I'm just going to tell you about it when I'm painting this in. And I used a lot, for me, it was real interesting for me to use a lot of browns. I used a lot of browns, coppers, bronzes, and turquoises. And the ring kind of gave me this interesting shape where it looked like I was walking through a cave that had all the brown and gold sparkling on the walls. And then if you looked out, it looked like you were looking out of the cave to blue sky and land or blue sky and water. Here, I'll show you in a minute, but I don't know if you're going to be able to see this. But a lot of people ask me, how else can I use the Twinkling H2Os? Don't get caught up in the word watercolor. Think of it as just another binder. Gum Arabics is completely transparent. It activates with water, but if you want to cover it up with resin, resin can't disturb it because it is water soluble. And so you can touch any kind of painting that you've done acrylic on, right? With any of the primary elements, whether it's mixed with a soft glazing medium, whether it's mixed with a varnish and you create your own varnish glaze, or whether you're using the Twinkling H2Os, it's still going to accomplish the same thing, right? You're going to be able to glaze. And because the primary element colors are beautifully translucent, that's why you see all this sparkle. You wouldn't see mica if the colors weren't nice and translucent. So because of that translucency, we're able to layer color upon color upon color, which is basically what that concept of glazing is. So now let's look at our edges here. Looks a lot more striking with the black edges, of course. We knew it would. Way better than this gold, right? Now you can tell the gold doesn't really complement all of that yellow. But the black's certainly going to make this pop. Boy, trying to hold this and paint in midair, this is a trick, guys. I'm not that talented, but I'm going to try for you because we only got a couple spaces left now where this gold is going to be removed. I got to chat you up about glazing, and next thing you know, it's almost painted in. I figure while the paint is out, I should do this. Now, what colors would I touch it up with? Well, we know that ginger peach would be beautiful, but the pink anthurium or any of the corals like the coral berry is going to give you a pop of coral. We know we can go over that turquoise with any of the turquoises. It's just, does it need to be touched up or maybe the color needs to be refreshed? I mean, it is your painting, right? And I'm in love with what happened with the texture in this thing. This is the only piece I've done this with. It's the only painting I've ever made with that texture on it like this. I do need to do a few more. It was just an experiment for this show, the HIA show. I wanted to show people how awesome the primary elements were in that 2001 show. It was 23 years ago. Hard to believe. We've been doing it that long. Okay, one last little section. Really, I don't need to put it here, but just to break it up, I'm going to pretend that there was another section here that could have gone black. Just add that little pop. Okay, I got that brush in there. So now I've just changed this. So now it contrasts, right? Now we got some contrasting color in there. Put it down and go, go, go. Okay. Where do you want me to go to? She wants me to go somewhere. I'm going to get my white, even though the watercolor brush is a little bit small for this, I'm going to get the watercolor brush. So let's get the colors. I'm going to do some ginger peach. I'm going to play with some jasmine. I think I'm going to grab a little bit of, where is the coral berry? I'm looking. This might be coral berry here. I think for the turquoise, because it's so blue, I want to use some of the Guatemalan green. Let's add a little bit of contrast. And That ought to be enough to kind of freshen this up. Get these puppies over. Now, also, what would I paint behind my chips? What would be cool? I don't want to ruin the color of the chips, so I never actually touch this. But if I could sit and do little detail work, we know these chips would pop if there was another color behind them that was contrasting, or I made more chips and just fill it up. You love my courage? Thank you. Well, yeah, but the thing is, what good does it do us having a painting sitting around that you kind of go, well, yeah, I kind of like it. Yeah, well, look at how interesting it is. But what if I did this? This looks a little disjointed to me. I think the black needs to come in a little bit further. I just noticed this one little area, even though this is where my painting stopped, it just looks like it needs to go in a little bit more. There we go. Okay. So, yeah, I know, but it's not done till you say it's done. So typically I will go light and dark. I don't know if I can use this other canvas to straddle this thing. It's going to be hard to paint and hold it at the same time. You know what I should do? My back's getting a little bit better. Let's put it up over the top. Thank you, guys. Hey, Evelyn, we have a few watercolors left if you're interested. I know I didn't get a chance to see much of you yesterday, I think, or the day before. I think you were busy with an appointment. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to lift this up so we can get as much visibility as this is possible for you guys. What's the name of the video of those chips? I'm not sure. Someone said they watched it, but I don't remember, hun. I'd have to go into the feed and really look for you. So let's see how far over we can get and get this whole thing here for you to view. I'm going to try my best and look at my little tablet here, because sadly I have to sit down to paint. Okay, so my gut wants to go light to dark, at least have a little light here, have a little dark here, and somewhere they shall meet in the middle. Can you guys see my fingers yet? Okay, so you can see me. All right. I'm just trying to see how much of this canvas you guys are going to see. And I'm starting on the bottom. Can you actually see this bottom here? I'm going to pull this up until I know you guys can see this section here. Give me a minute. There we go. There we go. Oh, no, you are. You're seeing it. All right. Because we kind of want it at an angle. You know what I can do? She says I'm brave. I feel so brave. I feel so brave. I'm going to put a second canvas under here. Try to get it to pull up a little bit for us. Straddle a little bit more at an angle for you. There we go. Now let's see how that looks. So let's get that paper plate going. And because paper plates, wax paper, all of it's good to go. I mean, anything you got around the house, you know, don't sweat it. Don't sweat the small stuff. So I've got some Guatemalan green here. I think these cakes need a little bit more love. And then that jasmine, because this looks like this is turquoise and like a purple with jasmine, turquoise and purple with jasmine. So that's what I'm kind of going with here. However, part of me wants to, of course, my purely pigments are behind me. Darn it. I was going to like beef up the color with a little purely pigment. Why not? Right? That's a big chunk of the jasmine in that plate. But that's okay. The purely pigments are behind me and they're out of the way because there was no room for me to have both these things on the set. Okay. So I have a bunch of this on my brush. Now, even though this is a Twinkling H2O, I'm going to paint it like it's an acrylic. Why not? Nothing's keeping me from utilizing it as an acrylic. That's what Priscilla Hauser was doing when she had us make these. She got the entire pot molten, completely wet, and did the one stroke painting technique with our watercolors. So she was using them not as a watercolor, she was getting them liquid and using them like an acrylic. She was just in love with my colors so much, she didn't care what base they were in, right? We got 5 Guatemalan green left according to what we're being told, okay? So I'm just gonna see, I'm practicing right here to see how my guat and my jasmine. Now remember, I painted this thing 21 years ago, so my eye's just gonna have to try to remember. I add a little bit of water to my guat, so you can kind of see what I'm doing here. Just a little bit, but I still want it thick like it was yesterday. Already that little bit of hot pink is making the difference, really making a difference. And I can take my ginger peach. I am going to run 2 plates here. One will have my oranges and one's going to have my turquoise and hot pink on it. Sorry, I'm running out of room here, so bear with me. I'm putting the ginger peach on the plate, but you can't quite see me do this. So while my pink is running in there, I am going to take some of this ginger peach and brush it in there and create accents. Doesn't have to be perfect. This doesn't have to blend perfect. Painting can also be a little bit abstract. You can have some marks in it. It's okay, right? Now, again, this is an old painting, 21 years old. It's like going, do you really want to lay it down? It's kind of beating up on me, but that's okay. The gum Arabic binder is going to work. It's going to lay it down. And actually leaving that one little frame of gold that I painted the black around, that kind of looks interesting. So I'm going to take some more of this jasmine, that beautiful jasmine that gave us this fabulous effect there. Give us another jasmine streak. I know it's going to have to blend into the Guatemalan green, so I'm being careful to actually pick a pocket that's right next to the Guatemalan green, but not running into the Guatemalan green. There we go. Now, less water, the better, right? But that's okay. This can all be softened and touched up. But I don't want you stuck thinking that because it was painted one way years ago, you're stuck with how it looks. You're not. This is your artwork. I'm just freshening up that turquoise here. Trying to bring it up next to that hot pink. Looks like we got a little bit of disjoint here. I kind of want to run this pink in here, but I don't. I just want to run it in as a vein, but not blend it in. There we go. Anything I paint is abstract. So they're mentioning colors in the link. I'm not going to get in the middle of that. Let our moderators do their job. They're probably answering people that are asking about colors. If after this broadcast is over, you guys are interested, you can reach out to me at leslieohnstad.arte. That is LeslieOhnstad.arte@gmail.com. or you can text me at 559-326-8718, and we will begin an order for you, or we will add on to your order for you, because there's a lot of people noodling over what they want. And we're going to start packing the orders Monday. I have someone coming over here organizing them a little bit for me tomorrow, but we'll start pulling them on Monday once we have a final idea of what everybody wants. So if you want to add something, don't worry about it. You still have time to do that. Right? You have time. I want to give everybody a chance to, take advantage of this. And that's one reason why I didn't want to do an auction. I didn't want to make it to where whoever had the most money could win. That's not what this is about. This is about me selling my garage watercolors, raising enough capital to move, because the landlady wants me out here, and, making more art. We get to the new house. I'm going to be able to set up a couple extra paint stations so we can switch cameras and do more art. And I think that's fabulous. I know this is a little bit strong what it's doing, but you get the point of what I'm talking about, right? What can you do to touch up your art? Now, this center here looks a little blah to me. If I was going to touch that up, believe it or not, and I don't have it here, I drop a little future floor polish just on top of these, because we know that's what they're made with, just a drop, and let it kind of wake it up. And then it looks like some of my blue pieces fell off. So if I was to put some kind of blue and purple pieces in here and tighten this up, it would kind of look a little bit better. This does need to be finished on camera. It's a big piece. So I didn't intend on finishing this whole thing today, but I wanted to give you an idea of possibilities. And I don't know if you have a painting in your stash that's 21 years old, but I certainly do. And like I said, I used to put it up at trade shows all the time because everybody wanted to see how I did this texture. And then I ripped it right here and I stopped using it at the trade shows. So I like it much better with a black background. I think this will be fun to finish. So I'm going to put this away for right now. Another thing I wanted to explore, here's just some canvases, practice canvases we could use as a way to balance our pieces. What if you wanted to play on texture? Okay. What about texture? A lot of people are doing texture. Now, again, I personally love watercoloring. I find this very, very relaxing. Okay. To me, I can just sit and little dabble, relaxes my brain, relaxes me from the end of the day. If it turns out to be a masterpiece, I can trim it and frame it. If it doesn't, oh well. But I found a couple boards that I had, this is going to sound like a nutty segue, that I had put crackle paste on, right? So what if I wanted to do something with the crackle paste? Now I know this is completely outside of the whole watercolor realm, right? Now I'm looking around to see if I can find one purely pigment bottle that I can nab and use as a contrast. So if I wanted the green on the top, green and turquoise on top, I could put purple down in the veins. I'm thinking out loud here, thinking about my process. Of course, they're all over the place. Oh, and then neons are in the other room. The neons are in the other room because I'm getting ready to shoot them, to put them up on the website individually. So that's not going to work. So we're going to have to go with some other colors that, like the vibrant aqua or the black plum. Ooh, no, the river rock's not in here. Is a river rock in here? Okay, so the cyan aqua, I do have this stuff from set 3, and I think River Rock Blue, other than I might not be lucky enough to find the bottle fast enough for you, but you'll get my point. I have the sky blue and the cyan aqua here. So the trick with crackle paste is you want to, and I learned this from Carolyn Nelson's class. Okay, Carolyn Nelson, fantastic artist, teaches this Southwest type of class, and she uses, by the way, it's called Sedona Sky on my YouTube channel under the regular YouTube videos. It's a 2-part video called Sedona Sky. It was an homage to Carolyn Nelson when I did the piece. I overworked it though. I really tortured myself trying to get dark color down into the cracks. But it was such a fun class. I decided to make vivid intense because of the class, because we were using regular fluid acrylics in the class and I had to make them. So here's what I'm going to do. I want to take some Purely Pigments and see if I get a little cup here that I can get them nice and liquidy in. You don't have to do it my way. In theory, you could just sit and rub it all over the top of it, spritz it, and what I want to do is have the color go down into the veins. That's what I'm going to try to do first. So we can try putting it directly on and see what it does, but you know, that's a lot of color. The way we've been doing this, I mean, Purely Pigments is so saturated. That's probably going to give us a lot of color to go down into that crack. Now this one's curving already for me. Let me get a regular brush. I don't want to get my water brush. And see if I can't get that color down into the cracks. Wow, that's really strong. A little stronger than I expected. Never done this. Tried to put the Purely Pigments directly on like a crackle paste piece. Okay. So I want it to run into the veins as much as I can. I know I got all this water on here. I know John's at his gallery piece. He would enjoy this. He was playing with the crackle paste last time we tuned into him. Okay, and then at this point, you take paper towel and you mop off the top, right? Now the Purely Pigments is pretty strong. Hopefully this will work, but you mop off the top. So you know you've got that dark veining below that went into your cracks, right? Yeah, it wants to go all over. That blue is trying to go everywhere. See, it's even going underneath and all the other cracks where it still looks white on top. I can see blue veining in here because it's traveling underneath in the cracks. So I'm going to keep mopping this off. And you can even get it a little bit wet on top. Mop even more off. See how that's nice and white now? But you've got blue veins. Art is so fun, isn't it? I just love playing with colors. It's just too much fun. Okay, so I'm trying to get the majority of the excess blue off the top. I think I'm redistributing the blue because my paper towel's kind of getting too dirty here. Hold that watercolor closer. Uh-oh. Evelyn, what might be gone, but other colors are there? You guys are all talking about what you're doing. So I'm just going to like mop off the top of all of this. And then let's add some twinkling H2Os on top. Because again, it's just another medium. It's just another binder. Wow, that sure looks a lot prettier with a color veining it than it did before with just white crackle paste. So with the turquoise, you could go purple. That would be an obvious one. You could go green. You could go pink. The jasmine might be pretty. The lemon drop, I know we sold out of it, but that lemon drop, I don't even know if I've got a potted of it. Oh, I didn't wet it down this morning because I knew we'd sold out of it. Darn it. It's not going to wet fast enough. So what color can I use that would be contrasting to this? Yeah, and Evelyn, after we get our broadcast done, if you end up wanting to reach out to me and we can go over the entire list, you know, because it's kind of crazy this morning. We had so many of them gone, and I didn't go through the entire list today like I did yesterday. I kind of didn't want to repeat things for people. There it is, Fluid Art Metallic Paint Skins and Resin Deli Recap by Leslie. Thank you, Miss L. Leslie's been my color idol for decades. She is a sweetheart. Okay, so let's take some of this jasmine. We know that hot pink and turquoise works well together. So I can do the jasmine on top, kind of paint in my crackle paste shape. The whole thing can be one color. You can just paint the different shapes the way you want to do it. I mean, the more common way would just kind of cover the whole thing. And when it dries, you've got a dark blue vein. Of course, that's really not that blue. It might have been nice if we'd had a maybe diazazine violet down there. But I think you get my point. You put a darker color down in the veins and then a lighter color on the top. And of course, when it dries, the twinkling H2Os are going to twinkle. Yes, they are. Twinkling H2Os, what a novel idea. This is that color Lucky Apple. So I want to see what it looks like. Ooh, and I'm going to try to use less, not so much, and not get it so wet. So maybe we can get this to dry quicker. And you can see how it sparkles, right? I feel lost that I didn't have my kiwi today. Or the Lucky Apple that wasn't that wet. I'm going to put a tiny bit of key lime on top just because there's plenty of it here to use. Because I'd rather have more of the pure paint than have it too watery. Because the more pure paint, the more it's going to shimmer for me. See what might be another color to go on top of that. Pink Anthurium. So we've done a pink, we've done a green. I wonder what olive would do. Just a little bit of an olive green on top of that might be real pretty. I know it's going to sparkle. This has gold and copper bits in the olive vine color. Oh, that's going to dry beautifully. And these are just little test patches so we can see what the color is going to look like when it dries. Okay. But my point to today's exercise is to not limit you guys. You know, don't limit yourself. I'm going to bring the camera down now. Don't limit yourself, okay? You can take a twinkling O's and you want to show the pink grapefruit? You betcha. Okay. Yay, I actually have a request. I have a color request. Let me get this off here. Let me find. Oh, great, I'm going to need another sheet of swatch paper here. I'll use the back side of this one. Yeah, that pink grapefruit was gorgeous yesterday. The first day it really didn't get that wet that well. Let's see what we can find the pink grapefruit over here. I want to say it's this. There you go, right off the bat. This is pink grapefruit. My, do I know my children or what? Everybody says to me, what's your favorite color? I said, now you're asking me to pick between my children. And that's just not fair, right? Let me add a little tiny bit more water to this. Absolutely. Any other colors you guys want me to show besides the pink grapefruit? Let me know. Frozen North, don't worry about it. There will be replays, and if you're interested in any of the stuff we've been showing, you can call me or text me at 559-326-8718. We're having our 3-day Twinkling H2O event, selling the garage watercolors. Some have been sold, but Catherine has a good list. Catherine and all three of our ladies does. Now, this has a little green left on my brush from the olivine, but that still is painting pretty nice. And that little bit of olivine actually looked pretty good with that. Strange to mix that right next to that pink grapefruit. One thing about our colors, it is almost impossible to make mud. I mean, if you really want to make a brown and mix yellow, red, and blue, you will make a brown. But in theory, right, the colors are so clean. There's such a beautiful translucency. Yeah, that peach and olivine, that was a nice little accident. I like those two colors together. I'm going to need to use them in a piece. I like that contrast. Anything else you guys need me to show? Any other colors anybody needs me to show? I mean, it is Saturday morning. A lot of people want to get their day on. That's why we start early on Saturdays. So if you're interested in any of the watercolors that we have left, I can email you the list, what we have after today's event. You want to see mallard green, McCabe? You want to see mallard green? Is that what you want, honey? Let me get the mallard going. Let me find that mallard. This is the mallard. Yes. So you want me to show the mallard green. Is that right? Let's show the mallard green. It's a little bit warmer. Now here is what it looks like dried. Patty, I did. I got your payment today. Thank you so much. Patty asked me if I got her second half of her payment. I did. So this was what it looks like dry. And then here is the wet version. Here we go. Here's a wet version. Let's see if I got it wet enough. I may not have it wet enough. Uh-oh, it's kind of dried back up. I'll do my best. But that dried mallard is going to probably give you a better representation. At least this will tell you the color of the green. It's just really dried into a hard cake already. I didn't put much water in it last night, but this is what it does look dry. Thank you, gorgeous. You're so sweet. So again, if anybody's interested, they can contact me. Leslie, let me get my camera flipped over. Leslie Ohnstad, LeslieOhnstad.arte@gmail.com. You can text me at 559-326-8718. Whatever we have left, I'll give you the list of. We got lucky that a couple people took 5 of everything we had left. They're trying to help with the plan to get me moved and out of this house so the landlady's daughter can move in. And on a really sad, tragic note, a week and a half ago, they were going to come inspect the house and they really want to move in. And I don't even know why I'm saying this on the broadcast, but they didn't show up for the inspection. And yeah, I was a little unrested after them not showing up. Found out the next morning the son-in-law was supposed to be here to inspect the house. The daughter lost her baby that morning. So I've got a little bit of a reprieve because they're mourning right now, but it makes me want to move even quicker for them. I would really love to see them begin to nest. I know it's very sad. Uh, I can't believe it happened to them. And for some couples, there's no coming back. For other couples, they can move on because they're young. It's really sad. But Miss L, you're right. Our simple one more needed than you need in the toolbox. Well, Miss L, if you want some of the big giant ones that I have left, because I'm never going to make them again, make sure you email me. I'll give you a list of what we got left so you can get caught up with everybody else. Meanwhile, my name is Leslie Ohnstad. It was a pleasure to be with you guys today. I will be back on Tuesday at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. In the meantime, hugs and kisses to all of you. Make sure you play with your colors, pull them out. I don't care if it's Arteza paint, if it's the Michael's Craft paint. Get some color in your life. Love you guys. Hugs and kisses. Bye.